research is exciting. So this question and the answer to this question is different for different people. But for me, I think the reason why I started doing research, one is I like research. So I have so I find it quite fascinating to develop a theory and assess it and then publish it. Apart from that, I think it carries a good importance in your CV. How I'm talking about this in the next slides. I always find it's a good work-life balance in a way that sometimes if you do a 5-day work of clinical work, it may get monotonous and you may feel that it's tiring. So having a kind of a research into your portfolio, something else that you can do as part of your clinical career, it's usually more of a work-life balance. I always like to be involved in clinical trials, so that's one of my reasons to get into research. Evidence synthesis and publication is also important. Um, like to present in conferences. I want to talk to people about my research. I like to teach. I like to mentor, and also I like to develop my junior colleagues so that they can do what they want to do. I like the career progression in the way of clinical academic role. So I am NIHR academic clinical fellow. So if I do my PhD, the next steps will be clinical lecturer, senior lecturer, reader, and if everything goes all right, professor. So it's a long way to go, but this is how the pathway goes. So these are my incentives to do research. Now I'm going to talk about why it is important for you to have a bit of research into your CV, whether you want to be a clinical academic or if you want to do the clinical practice. So I think this is the important bit. So this is the screenshot that I have taken from the application process that requires for the IMT trainees, or that is the internal medicine trainees, or ST3 training, that is the specialty training. So this is how you need to prepare your CV. So go to that website, which is the ST3 recruitment website. Google it, you will find that, and have a look at this application points, because this is how you can improve your CV and get as much point as you can. So there are two important parts of the research where it carries a good amount of numbers for the application. So one is presentation and the other is publication. So as you can see that there are some grading. So if you do an oral presentation in a national or international meeting, it carries 7 points, and in a specialty which is very competitive, these are like gold dust. So you can do a presentation easily and then get as much point as you can, and then it gradually points goes down depending on the type of presentation that you do. I strongly suggest that you have a read or have a look at that website, and it's called ST3 recruitment website. So the next is publication. I understand that it's not easy to do the publication at the very beginning, but you can try also. So you don't have to be the first author or joint first author of a PubMed cited original research, because you get them after your PhD or a master's or something like a concrete research. But you can certainly start with doing a case report or editorial or like a letter to the editors or reviews, and that also carries some marks. So have a look at that and see which one you can get. So these are the two important bits for research and how you can improve your application. All right. So this is basically the diagram of the types of research that we can do in medical practice. So the top is the highest quality of research, bottom is the lower quality of research, but sometimes we need to start from somewhere. So I suggest you start from this area if you are a beginner, and get a case report or case series. There are primary studies where you can get involved in case control studies, cohort studies, or randomized control trials. So these are the primary studies. And then, depending on the quality, on your topic or your subject, you can also do systematic review or meta-analysis or clinical guidelines. So this, as you grow along with your research career, you tend to do these things in a bit more. So because it's a how to series that was arranged for, that was the focus for this particular webinar. So I will keep things nice and simple. So I will talk about how to do the case series, case report, and the basic steps that we can do at the very beginning. So uh, So the first thing that we need to think about is whenever we try to do any research, we need to choose a topic. We need to find a problem. So I do motor neuron disease research. So I will just go along with that topic. So my topics, I wanted to do something neurodegenerative. And motor neuron disease is something Sheffield is quite famous for. And we have got very good mentors, professors who have a very good establishment for their research. So I thought that my mentee would be a suitable one for me. And then we need to find a problem that which area of that particular subject you are interested in. Then you need to formulate a question, design your research, write a research proposal. For the primary studies like case control cohort or randomized control trial, you need to have an ethics approval. You run your research and then you disseminate. That means you do presentation, you do publications. So what is the first step? So as I say that when I first started to think about neurology training, I wanted to do academic clinical fellowship, but I didn't have any supervisor or mentor at the time. So I feel that it's not possible to do all your research by yourself. So you need to find a supervisor. I think it's a good idea to have a good grip on statistics, and this is the book I find life-saving. Even if I've been doing research for last 3, 4, 5 years, but I still go back to this book and find the basic stuff. So you can have a read, and it's available in Amazon. You can read any type of statistics books. You can do YouTube reviews, but learn the statistics because it is important for your research. I think the other important thing at the very beginning is to show your enthusiasm, because you need your professors to understand that you are the person who is capable of doing the research. So start with small things like case report and case series, but show your interest to them and say that you are interested in this and you want to do this. And then once you get the opportunity, then you just grab them, because you don't, at the beginning, you don't need to find what quality of research it is. Just get into it, and then you will understand the process later on. There are a couple of YouTube videos or YouTube channels I tend to follow. You can find anything really, and they didn't pay me for anything. It's just how I feel that I find help from their YouTube channel. One is Amina Yunis and a gentleman called Andy Stapleton. So they do like how to start the research, writing, and good stuff in their YouTube channel. So you might be able to have a look at them. So my talk, I separated it in three different topics. So how we do it in medical school, how we can do it when we get into NHS, and how we can be a clinical academic through the clinical training pathway. So for the medical students, do an easy thing like case report. If you walk around your medical school, if you talk to your professors, there will be plenty of case reports. So basically what case report means is you need to find a case which has got unusual observation or adverse therapy response, or some sort of new thing that has happened into that case report. It is easy, and nowadays there have been a number of student conferences in Bangladesh and also in Southeast Asia or wherever you're from. You just need to find them. Do a little poster presentation, and how to do poster, I will come back to it in a minute. Right, you can write things up. BMJ students is a good one and an easy one to get into. You can try and learn the basics at when you are a medical student. And we used to have community medicine, which we used to hate, but you just need to read the epidemiology and statistics a bit more cautiously, which we didn't, and then we struggle. So do that when you are a medical student. Write up your projects, like a thesis project that we usually do in our medical school. So it's not difficult. All you need is a plan to get into research as a medical student. The next one is how to get into NHS, into research in NHS. So basically, I would focus on poster presentation if you are a beginner, because it's easy to do. You don't need a fancy or path-breaking research. You can just do a case report or case series or even an audit presentation you can do in a poster. The one thing I'd like to emphasize is abstract writing skill is important throughout your research career, and you need to learn it from the very beginning. There are courses in Coursera and Future Learn, so you can have a look at them and write, because it's the whole research you need to summarize within 250 or 300 words. So it's basically a skill. So learn that from the very beginning, and you can do the course for that. Then find a suitable course. So Royal College of Physicians, they have RCP conferences. If you want to do an acute medicine conference, you can go in there. You can also find your specialty specific conferences. Like for us in neurology, we present in ABN conferences. So you can find your specialty and then you can present in there. Poster is a summary, so don't write everything in there, and then slowly build your portfolio with the posters. So this is a little bit of to give an idea. This was my first poster that I did in NHS, and thankfully and luckily I got a highly commended award for that, and I believe that changed my whole direction, because I was thinking whether research is for me or am I the right person to do it. And when I got the award for this, I just thought that I need to pursue for this. So what I do, or what I prefer in my poster presentations, is basically try and do as brief and as neat as possible. How to do poster in itself is a talk in itself, so I'm not going to go in nitty gritty details. So this is the one I did later on, and by that time I learned the skills to do and use Adobe illustrations. So you try and develop your skills and improve how you do the posters and presentations later on. Now, when you do, say, for example, 4 or 5 posters, you don't need more. So don't employ all your energy doing one thing, because you need to tick all the boxes. So do and try and get into oral or platform presentation. It requires a little bit more than the poster, because it sometimes requires good quality research, good quality audits. So try and see whether that skill you can enhance. I always like to develop my presentation skills, so I continuously try and learn, and YouTube my best friend. So I try and do different presentations, see which one looks better, because that's how you can get a more engagement with your presentation. A little bit about how you can go next step from case report, case series to literature review. So you need to narrow your research topic. You need to find the good quality research that is already there. You need to be very organized from the beginning, because at the end of your write-up, you need to find everything that you have seen in the first day. So organize everything in one folder, and then it will be easier for you. Develop a thesis. It is not possible to do it in the beginning by yourself. Get a mentor who can have a look at your thesis, your important points. Write the paper, find your senior to have a look at them, and then send it for publication. I think we are quite tight with the time, but I think if anyone is interested, at the very end, I will show how to do the PubMed search at the end of my topic. So let's go ahead with the next presentation, next slides. So I think about publication, what I find more difficult is it is it is dealing with the procrastination. You have the data, you have the table, but you don't feel like writing it. So deal with the procrastination. There is an excellent video by TED Talk about how to deal with procrastination. I think I have watched it 10, 15 times so far in my lifetime. So have a look at them and deal with your procrastination, because it is very important when you start writing up. Impact factors, not much important, but what is important is to do it in an indexed journal, because the points are different for an indexed journal and a non-indexed journal. And your number of publications certainly helps with your research career. So next slide, and the important bit I want to talk about is how you can get into the clinical academic pathway. So basically, as for the UK trainees, they started from the very beginning from their medical school. So they do a intercalated BSc, and then they get into the academic foundation training. So what it essentially means is you have 6 rotation in 2 years of foundation training, and 1 rotation will be entirely research, and you probably don't need to do clinical work at that period. But it is difficult for us as IMGs, because we tend to start after our foundation training. So for us, I think we need to emphasize on academic clinical fellowship. NIHR has got a full funding for it. So, and it's a very prestigious one. So I'd vouch everyone, if you are interested in research, look at the NIHR website and look for the ACF details. You can start it from ST1 level. You can do it from ST4. So you need to apply before ST4, I think. And you have 25% of 25% of research training and 75% of clinical training. So in a year time, you have 3 months of research. No one will bother you for clinical work at the time. You can do as much research as you want in there. And then 9 months, you have the clinical practice. And then once you do the ACF, the next step is doing the PhD, and then you go ahead, so on and so forth, with clinical lectureship, and then go on to become a professor. So PhD fellowships, think about getting local fellowships. It's not difficult. Again, speak to your professors into your in NHS, and they have, sometimes they have fundings. National fellowships are there. They are quite competitive, but there is nothing like you won't be able to get. So try hard. You may be able to get the national fellowships. Look for opportunities, talk to people. It's all about what I learned from my research career. Talk to people, do collaboration, think about research, and find people who can help you with. And then try and publish whatever you have developed so far. If you're not an ACF, no problem with that. You can still do the out-of-program research. You can do masters, you can do MD training, you can do PhD, even if you're not a ACF. But make sure your CV is getting better, because you don't want to be stuck at the beginning of poster level if you want to progress in research career. There is a frequently asked question whether to do a master's or PhD before coming to NHS. I didn't do it. I don't vouch for it, because you can do masters while you are in a clinical training, and as a part-time, you can get some funding for that. So I don't advise that. But if you have got a master's already approved, go ahead with that, and then gradually you can do PLAB or MRCP or whichever you need for GMC registration. So these are the questions that I had at the beginning. I hope I answered all of them. So I talked about how to get into medical, as a medical student, into research. How do you do research in NHS? How to start with something basic, case report, case series. Learn about this before you start doing it. If you don't have a research, does your CV look bad? So I want to bust this myth. Not everyone needs to do research. If you are interested to do research, go ahead with it. But there are plenty of excellent NHS consultants that don't do research. They're fantastic with their clinical work. So don't worry if you don't have much into your research. Try and get a little bit in there. But if not, don't worry about that. And you will still have opportunities when you are actually doing clinical training. How to improve your research skill as a surgeon? I think the basics are the same, but I think Prof can highlight that a bit better than I do. How to do poster? I have talked about that. I'm very happy to talk about it later. I have a website. You can come and join that, and I'm coming that to you in a minute. Just to summarize, when I first started in NHS, I never thought that I would be doing a clinical fellowship and doing a PhD research and publications. And the left picture is the first one that intrigued this and gave me the confidence that I can do it. From that, I got the award from American Academy of Neurology, and that got published in different newspapers. And that was like, that is the time I need to do research. And now I just recently presented in European Academy of Neurology conference, and it was very rewarding. So essentially, what I'm trying to say, that I started exactly the way you started, or you are planning to start. So it's not a journey you can't take. It is very much a doable journey, but you need to be very tenacious and very confident and collaborative with other people to get all the opportunities that you need. So that's pretty much the end of my talk. I'm sorry if I have overrun a little bit.